morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think it is afternoon in Australia right now. It could be morning in New Zealand. That being said, welcome to the AI for MSPs. I'm joined with our presenter, Nicole Reineke. We're going to begin here in just a moment, but before we do, this content may contain some forward-looking statements regarding future product plans or development efforts. What this legal disclaimer basically means is I'm not Mike Adler. I don't make product plans and decisions, and when things come out, just know that priorities and plans obviously sometimes do change. And this webinar is for you. So you are all on mute for the quality of the recording. If you want to ask questions at any time, I'll do my best to kind of insert questions as we go through. Just know, ask questions at any time, and we'll do a short Q&A at the very end. Please let us know if I have any audio or video issues. And again, the session is being recorded and will be posted to enable you in the coming kind of weeks ahead. I'm going to do one commercial, maybe two commercials. I forgot how many I put in there, but save the date because from April 13th to the 15th, we will be doing our largest and probably the best Empower ever. I know we had a contingent of people from ANZ come over to Berlin, but also the previous one in Frisco, Texas. It's going to be amazing. We're going to do some certifications. We're going to do a bunch on cybersecurity and IT innovation. I know Nicole will be there, blowing people's minds in AI. So please check that out. And there is a promo right now. So if you buy two, you get one free. Okay. So head on over to, or just Google Enable Empower 2026, and you'll see the registration page for that. And last commercial, never miss a Head Nerd blog. No one likes a bunch of marketing material. You know, you go up to a vendor website, you sign up for something and you get blasted with everything else. Not this time. If you use that QR code, you will get nothing but a subscription for Head Nerd blog content. Okay. So between myself and my colleagues, the 7 other nerds, we spend a little bit of time putting out blog content for you to check out. Now, I believe without further ado, I believe it's myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Jason Murphy. I'm one of, again, 7 Head Nerds at Enable. I'm one of 2 UEM nerds or RMM nerds, primarily for End Central. I do also look after End Site customers as well. I've done some cool stuff in the MSP space, and I've been doing this IT thing for well over, I would say well over. It's been 25 years because I started in the year 2000. So just over 25 years. And Nicole, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. I'm Nicole Reineke. I've been at Enable for about 2 years, but I have been in the industry building AI and machine learning software for the last 20 years. I am one of the top 1% of inventors of all time. I have 53 patents in the AI ML space that have been granted in the last 5 years. I also, in addition to running AI strategy at Enable, I teach an AI master's class at Georgetown University, and I'm a best-selling author of 4 books, and I have a 5th one coming out with Columbia in just a few months. So very excited about that. I live, eat, and breathe AI. I think it's super fun. So that's what we're here to talk about today.
Cool.
Okay. So when we were putting together this agenda, we really wanted to make sure that we gave our customer base the tools that they really need to figure out how you can adopt AI within your organization and how you can help your end customers adopt AI. So this process is actually based on the Georgetown Master's AI Innovation class, as well as having talked to hundreds and hundreds of service providers across the globe. And we took the best of all of their activities, plus the best of what we know from our discipline and academic practice, and put them together. So we're going to talk about where AI is today, just really briefly to set the stage for anybody who wants to know more about what can actually be done. Then we're going to talk about the problem finding part, right? So like any good software solution provider, you want to find the problems to solve. And there's actually a really good structure to do that. And then how do you apply AI in a crawl, walk, and run mechanism so that you can actually do an implementation that solves your problems that brings your organization forward, and it's not success if you don't know how to measure it. So that's what we're going to walk through today. There are the ability to ask questions. So if you do have questions as we go along, just pop the questions right in there. We're monitoring now. So the broadest level, AI today is pretty much the same as it's been for the last 50 years. It's just a lot faster. So you have what we call AI today, which is a marketing term, artificial intelligence. And within that marketing term, there's actually a subset of information or subset of activities that are actually machine learning. And machine learning is a set of algorithms that help you make a decision against your data. Now, there's a part in there called deep learning. And so that is when you do 3 or more iterations through some set of machine learning. And then there's generative AI, which is a subset of deep learning. And that is all about pattern matching. And so when we talk about AI, typically what most of the world is talking about is that very, very small subset, which is the pattern matching aspect, which is, ChatGPT and Copilot and all of those great tools. The other thing that everybody seems to talk about, which is really fun and interesting and very powerful, are AI agents. So an AI agent is simply a program that uses one of those generative AI, typically language models, to interpret a question, and then it reasons against the request or the question. Then it generates a workflow. Then it creates an execution, so it takes action, and then it provides an output. So really straightforward and simple. So an AI or agentic AI architecture is simply I have an agent or an orchestrator that's going to call into one or more agents that's going to take these paths of action and then have an outcome. One of the big challenges with AI is because it is non-deterministic, you have a percent of hallucination or a percent of failure. And with an AI agent, that's actually a compounding issue. So if you have a typical 10 to 30% failure rate for any request that comes into a language model, imagine that 10% failure rate comes in at the input. So you have a 10% rate of failure there. Then you're interpreting the information. There's a 10% rate of failure there. So it's compounding. Plus the workflow generation, 10% rate of failure there. And then the workflow execution. So you end up with a real big issue of non-determinism when you start to do these agentic workflows. And there's some stuff that you can do to work around it and to make it easier to work with. And we can talk about that in a bit.
Nicole, just before you move on, only because, we've done plenty of AI webinars. I've heard you talk at length about all these interesting bits. But one of the things that keeps coming up that I see on LinkedIn or in the news is AI failing, or is the boom about to bust? Could you expand on that one a little bit?
Yeah, this is my favorite. So there was an MIT study that came out that said 95% of all AI initiatives are failing. I mean, it was like end of the world. AI is not delivering on any of its promises. Yada yada yada. It was pretty severe. And what they're actually talking about is those giant initiatives that they're trying to move an entire company in a direction. What's really interesting about that is they actually weren't counting the smaller use cases as part of the initiatives that were failing, because those initiatives are actually significantly being adopted and moving forward. So when you see that top everything is failing, it's actually 4 major Gen AI projects with pilots. How many were successfully deployed across large enterprises? And what the more significant research is showing is actually just came out from Wharton in October, which is in your daily activities, what is the actual AI adoption that's happening and where? And as you can see in that Wharton one, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, there is statistically significant adoption happening where we're seeing upwards of 40, 50, 60% of different functions use generative AI or language models or AI, which is a sort of machine learning aspect, on a daily basis. So it is not failing. It is expensive and it is hard to do at an enterprise scale, but it's not hard to do at a use case scale and at a department scale. So that's really important. And that's information that we can start to take in as we think about, well, how are we going to adopt it? We can actually adopt it in the successful way, as opposed to the, let's try moving the entire enterprise over. One thing that was really interesting about the Wharton research that just came out, so this is probably worth screenshotting, is these are all of the places, and these are the exact use cases where people are succeeding in 2025. And you can see data analytics is a natural case where you're looking for specific information out of a piece of data. Marketing content, super natural place for using it. Help desk support and document summarization, meetings, document proposals, all that copyright stuff. All of these use cases make perfect sense. And when you see it, you're like, of course, those are succeeding because we understand what needs to be done and we understand what good outcomes look like. So this is a great place. If you have no idea where to start, this screenshot right here, pick the top ones, right? This is a great place to start. And when we think about how you apply AI, so there are 3 different ways you can really apply AI. The first is collaboration, right? So you and I can install a chatbot. We can use ChatGPT. We can use Copilot, any one of those things. We know our jobs and we can start to ask questions of generative AI or a language model to ride alongside us as a companion to make our jobs easier to do. So that's collaboration. The second one is personalization. So how can we tailor things to our current context and have them happen alongside us? So not just, hey, I'm putting a chat into a chat bot, but how do I take information in from a ticket and then provide directed feedback through that ticket? So that's personalizing the answer to the context that comes in. And then the third way is proactive. So how do we get enough information in, run it through enough processes so that we can proactively do a thing with a high level of consistency? And so data analytics fits really nicely into that proactive category. And I want you to keep these categories in mind.
Nicole, just a quick question here. In terms of, doing real world examples, I know personally I use it for a lot of complicated things that my old brain is typically forgetting, like just, when you're working in PowerShell or when I want to use APIs. I'm actually going through an exercise. I'm going to see if I can actually do this, but I'm trying to build some middleware between Central and another platform. This is beginning stages, but these real world examples are super important. And again, I have already failed so many times with AI and stumbled, but I do get to come back to it and revisit and reiterate. Is it one of those things where, as you were describing those 3 things previously, that while there are challenges with AI, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to do it all for you. It might get you 89% of the way there. But picking up later for me is something that I kind of revisit from time to time. I'll go back in some of my chats in Copilot. I will revisit certain marketing ideas that I have or what have you, and then kind of really expand on it. Do you ever do that yourself?
All the time. I find that Copilot and GPTs are really, really good at making up the stuff you don't know and helping you figure out what you don't know, right? So if I ask a question and it's too vague, I get really frustrated because I get very bad outcomes. The answers aren't what I want. It's not helping me build the slides that I want, right? 'Cause I'm not able to give it enough information. So I actually find I have to take a pause, go do a bunch of other research, and then come back and say, okay, now I know how to ask a question and now I know what I actually want. And then it can actually collaborate with me as an expert because I'm giving it better prompting, I'm giving it better data. And in some cases, I'm actually uploading a set of files that I found during my research. I said, now this is an expert on the topic. Now we're going to have a conversation about the expertise of this area with the additional data. So it's 100%. And that's the danger of trying to use it in an area where you're not knowledgeable as well. Because if you weren't knowledgeable, you wouldn't know to be frustrated and walk away. You would just take the output as, as gospel.
Right.
Yeah, super good question.
Cool.
Yeah. So when we look at collaborative, so if when you're doing an implementation and trying to figure out like what do I actually bring into my MSP, collaborative is really important because this is the easiest way to assist the people who are experts in your field and the people who are experts in your organization by giving them a co-pilot, by giving them access to GPT in a secure manner where you can get emails and reports and ticket responses generated on demand alongside your user who can actually, read through the answers and be the human in the loop that knows what the next best thing is. So you really want to use this kind of an implementation. You have skilled people who are doing repetitive or time consuming tasks. And it still needs their judgment, right? We still need a JSON here. We can't just have uh, an intern trying to do that kind of an integration, even with ChatGPT. When you look at the personal AI, so this is when you start to do things like I'm creating dashboards, or I'm creating recommendation engines, or I'm creating support tools, right? That are creating customer segmentation. You need to be able to do this if you have to drive better decisions based on near time relevant information. So you want to do this when you can't use sort of the same kind of answer for everybody. It really needs to be personalized. The effort in going from a collaborative implementation to personalized is massive. So there's a huge investment of time here. And the investment to get from personalized, meaning I bring in my own context on demand and I have a pipeline, to proactive is even bigger. And so what proactive is, as you can imagine, proactive security monitoring, bringing together a million security alerts using machine learning and then bubbling that up as a story. That's something that's proactive. And you only want to pursue this when there is a time sensitivity and you have a big risk of a bad decision being made. So you need eyes to take action really, really quickly, and you want to bubble these things up. So proactive AI is really time sensitive and it's really cost intensive. So we're going to walk.
Question for you.
Yeah.
Is this agentic AI? Is proactive AI agentic AI? Because I always feel like agentic AI is the doing of something, right?
Yes, not necessarily. So all agentic AI means is somebody is giving a command at the start. It's taking a set of actions and then there's an output. So you can actually have a collaborative AI that goes through a standard operating procedure and then returns the result. You wouldn't necessarily call it agentic, but you could build a co-pilot agent that is trained on a standard operating procedure. So I could just log into Copilot and say, hey, I'm trying to analyze this account, use the agent, and the agent goes through the 3 or 4 steps of here's how you analyze an account, and then here's your outcome. So agentic AI can just read you right along. Productive isn't typically agentic in that nature. It's typically sort of machine learning, and the machine learning bubbles up responses, which could be responses to an agentic architecture.
Understood.
Good question. So we're going to start, and I'm going to show you exactly what activities you're going to do to pick your use cases. We're going to go through some specific examples, but before that, the standard rules of IT and software development good practices apply to AI, even though it's much faster to do some of these collaborative implementations. So you really want to think deeply about the data that you have that's going to inform your AI. So how much data do you have? Is it well understood? Is it accurate? Is it recent? Is it labeled? And would you actually use it to make business decisions? Because if you try to take bad data and run AI against it, you're just going to end up with a lot of bad results even faster than you would have if you had been using, rules-based implementation or standard software development. So just keep this in mind, because if you have little to no good data to inform your decision making, what you want to do is just go out, buy someone else's tool, use something like ChatGPT or Otter or Chorus to do the activities. You're not going to train it. You're not going to have it be specialized. It's just going to use someone else's tool. If you have things like hundreds of tickets that are well organized, that you curated so you know the answers are truthful and real, you can very easily do what's called tuning. And that means you're going to bring a series of data to the AI. And the AI, you're not writing the algorithms, you're not writing the language model, but the AI will be informed by that set of data. And that's called tuning. Most of us will never get into the thousands or hundreds of thousands of pieces of data that are well understood, or the billions of pieces or millions of pieces of data. And that's really required if you're bringing together algorithms to make new informed decisions that haven't been approached yet. Because it's not just, can I make one or two good decisions? It's actually, how do you understand the outliers so you're not making badly informed decisions? So for the majority of people on this call, really consider, do I have almost no data here, or do I have in the order of hundreds or maybe 1,000 or two pieces of data that are well understood? So you really want to stick to that use or tune capability. Okay. So what should you do with AI? The first thing that you should do is you should figure out all of the things that bother you and your team, or bother your customers, because friction is the number one point of entry for any adoption of AI. So what's not working? Let's not try to invent something new at first. If you haven't used AI and you haven't implemented it in your organization, look for the point of friction first. And the point of friction is, where are we wasting time? Are we losing momentum when we're closing a deal? Where in the process do we lose that momentum? When we try to interact with our customers, where do they get stuck? Where do they get confused? Where do they feel like we're not giving them the best of our ability? Where are people doing repetitive tasks, right? Where do people in our industry or in our organization get really frustrated? And then the other one is, where are we just drowning information and we have no idea what to do with it? Right, so if you're looking for a place to start thinking through these problems. Can you brainstorm with your team the places where they're feeling the friction? Can you brainstorm with your customers their friction points? So first, we're finding a problem. Then we're measuring it. Now, here's the thing. I don't care if you're building a local Copilot or if you're building a large, implementation of proactive AI. You need to do a $10,000 test. Any problem that you are taking the time to solve, you want to make sure it's costing you at least $10,000, because you can't just do one implementation. This is not a one and done thing. Every time you implement an agent or you start putting together prompts, it has to be maintained over time. And that creates overhead. So really sit back and think, okay, I've now got a list of problems. Which of these makes sense in the $10,000 effort? Does it get repeated a lot? So am I using man or person hours on a regular basis? Does it actually create angst? Right? There are a lot of things that I have to do on a daily basis that are just painful for me. Like the idea of putting in another Jira ticket completely just throws me into an angst-ridden moment. Can you define exactly what needs to be done? This is important. So if you can say, here's a problem, and I know exactly how I have to solve it, that's a good candidate for the $10,000 test. Can you control the outcome? So is this something we actually have control over? So you may have a problem, which is, hey, my customer's angry. And you may not actually have control over the outcome because they may be angry about the cost of Microsoft licensing. Not something you can do anything about. So really consider, is this something you can control the outcome of? And then would you pay someone else $10,000 for this? So we want to look for things that create $10,000 worth of relief. And then we want to do the opposite. So a lot of AI projects that fail miserably are vanity projects. So they're things that the executive suite, and I'm guilty of this myself, have just decided, oh my gosh, this would be great if we could get up on stage and talk about it. So we're going to do the implementation. And that always sounds like a great idea, but it's actually a terrible idea in practice. So if it sounds good, but it's not going to be used, it's not really a $10,000 problem. And don't tell me it's going to make you millions in the market, because that's ridiculous. It's a vanity project. Don't bother doing it. The other things that you don't want to do, so if it's something that will only happen once or only happens once in a while, probably not good for AI. If you could just do it with a script, do it with a script. Do not use AI to do things that are better handled in a deterministic way that can simply be scripted or you can use rules for. Right, Nicole?
I feel targeted.
I know. Well, no, you can use AI to build a script, but don't use it in lieu of a script.
But I use AI so much at this point. Like I do a lot of one-time tasks with it. And and I can see from the point of view of delivering this to an executive or, IT leader, you do want to obviously create value in AI.
Well, there's a difference between using it as a co-write, like a co-pilot, meaning accepting alongside you and doing it as a project, right? Like, if you want to have it alongside you, you want to write a million PowerShell scripts, go right ahead. But don't make a project of it and don't bring it into your company as a project.
Understood.
You know? You were not being targeted specifically, but now.
I was only kidding.
All over.
This is good advice.
The other thing is, if no one's excited to maintain a project, it's going to fall. Like, you gotta have somebody who's going to be the champion. Okay, so we're going to play a game. We're going to Slido.com, and the Slido ID is 1365385. I'm going to give everybody a moment.
So if we want to just read through number one, I don't know if we want to skip that slide, but I'll just read number one for you. Example one, streamlining internal operations. Example, AI agent that pre-tags incoming support tickets and then drafts responses for tier 1 issues. Now, do you feel like that is a good use case for AI?
Okay, everybody can put in your vote, so you should see this guy.
So if you want to head on over to Slido and choose, that would be helpful.
All right, I will share a QR code in case anybody wants to see that. Okay, you should see the QR code. So do we think the use case of we want to use an AI agent to take in support tickets and draft responses for tier 1 issues? So let's think back to our $10,000 problem. Does it meet that $10,000 problem?
Without knowing the answer, I would say yes, probably. There's a lot of effort to crafting tickets and responding to them. So I would imagine that's quite valuable to most of our MSP partners.
All right.
Guessing.
You're guessing? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna show the results.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what the results are, Jason.
Okay. Oh, and let me stop that. I'm sorry. There was something for me to do there. Actually, how do I show results here? Reset results. No. So I can see it on my screen.
All right, why don't you read me the results, and then I'm going to show these QR codes.
Example one was 40%, 47% chose number 5, 35% chose number 4, and 18% chose number 3, and that was 17 votes.
Okay, I love it. So all 17 of you, 100%, 2 thumbs up. Right. So if we look at the sort of triage, it is definitely painful. Manual triage is so much work for our organization. It's repeated. We get support queue flooding constantly. Super specific, right? We know what the workflow is. We know where the data comes from. We know how to compare it, and we know where the data goes. Controllable, yes, we can control how the team interacts with it, and 100% we could save $10,000. Okay, let's look at a second example.
Cool. Let me just play that one. And I now know how to show results, so I apologize for not doing that right the first time.
Okay, so do we want to automate some additional aspects of support. So is it worthwhile building a chatbot that answers some common billing and login questions? I'm going to run that through the $10,000 problem. So not tickets that come in, but just people have general questions. I'll wait till we get back up to that 17 number at least. Let's see, up here's the QR code if anybody wants to join in late.
Okay, we're up to about 12. And almost there. Just let me know when you want me to show the results.
All right. Thinking we can show it? Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, and I think I can show this on my screen now. Okay. So the answer, we had 40% of you say 100% absolutely. Oh, some people didn't think so. We're leaning a little bit more even there. So let's actually take a look at the assessment here. So it still was a yes, but it is not as strong of a yes. It depends on how painful, billing really is for your organization. So there is some repeated tasks that have to be done by the people who are answering these questions. You probably get them frequently. Maybe some of you don't. So in that case, if you don't get it frequently, if it doesn't pass, you can build FAQs so you can actually create really good training content for it. You can own it. So it depends on the size of your organization, but I'm going to go with a probably on this one. Okay. So let's do another one. So generating insights from unstructured data. So this is an actual use case that one of the service providers came to me with. They wanted to do AI-driven personalization engine that tailors emails based on your customer profile and product usage. They had unstructured data.
Okay. So I'm now kicking off that one.
Right. Some good votes coming in. Ooh, this is very divided. It's very divided. It's like watching a horse race. This is really fun.
I have my own personal thoughts as I'm going through this, only because I know how much MSPs focus around trying to differentiate their white glove service, and that is usually very customer facing. So it's interesting to see these responses.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to show. So we're pretty well split on this one, like for sure. Okay. So here's my answer. I think this is a little bit of a warning. So what was described is done really, really well by people like HubSpot. And so my inclination for this kind of sort of unstructured data where you're personalizing marketing campaigns based on, product usage and interaction, I lean heavily towards there were really great marketing tools that do this. You may want to use somebody's off the shelf product for it. But the truth is, it is painful, right? You do have new information on a daily basis. Specific is the question, like, do you know exactly what data leads to what outcomes? Like that's a big question here, because if you can't tailor, I know this exact data and these exact steps mean they want this information, then you're going to have a bunch of vagaries that are going to have a bad end result. Whether or not you can control it, that's mixed. You maybe do some data cleanup first, and then is it worth $10,000? I have seen marketing campaigns that have been incredibly effective, absolutely bring in 10K of recurring revenue, maybe even more. So the answer to this, though, I would probably use someone else's tool.
We have one. It's called Market Builder. Check it out.
There you go. They don't let me on that side of the house very much. Engineering labs. So if a problem passes the $10,000 test and you're certain that you actually want to invest in it, the next step that you're going to do is going to sound so crazy simple, but you really need to map out the process that you're about to automate or that you want to bring AI onto. And so I do it with a simple circle journey map. And this is the best practice from everything from IDEO to UX research and what we actually teach at Georgetown. And what you want to do is you want to roughly draw the steps that happen so that you close the whole loop and you understand where these points of friction are. So the first thing you do is, where do we start? If we're going to actually solve the IT ticket problem, which is somebody enters a ticket and we're going to automatically try to respond to it, what is the actual process here? And it's really important that you start to get these steps right? So the process is, somebody has some kind of a failure, they create an IT ticket, that ticket somehow comes into an inbox, somebody has to monitor the inbox and get it assigned to a person. The person does some research, then they reach out to the person who submitted the ticket, right? This is really the process that we find people are going through. So draw this process out first. So when you find a $10,000 problem, take 10 minutes and literally draw this map. And the thing you're going to do after that is you're actually going to mark what the points of friction. So you know it's a problem. So where does the problem actually happen? Where is the actual friction? Right? You have the first point of friction, which is, hey, I failed to begin with. Then the user doesn't really care about the ticket in the inbox. Like, that stuff nobody really cares about. But then your internal employee probably gets really annoyed they have to monitor an inbox and assign themselves a ticket, right? That's a point of friction. I know I would be annoyed by that. And then, maybe the research, maybe somebody enjoys doing that. Maybe that's not friction, but the friction then comes when we have to reach back out because you didn't get all the information you needed. So you really want to put in writing, like, hey, where is this going wrong? And then what is the biggest part that's going wrong? Because when you find the biggest part that goes wrong, and then you say, do I have enough data that I can automate this part of it and use AI to help me solve it? That's where you prioritize the step replacement or that friction removal. So if you don't want to be one of the 95% of failed AI initiatives, what you don't want to try to replace this whole process with AI. What you want to do is you want to be one of those, 70% of adoption where you're using the AI or a specific use case to solve a point of friction. And then you can increase that point of friction resolution over time. So look really deeply and say, what are the places that we can actually put a collaborative AI in place is when the person starts to research the solution, it's really easy to put a collaboration next to it and say, hey, put this into a chat interface and get the responses based on our known knowledge base. Okay, so this is really important. So look for the opportunities within there that you could possibly or plausibly put AI against. And this is really important because what you're going to do next is you're going to say, I know my points of friction. I know where AI makes sense. I'm going to build a roadmap. And the roadmap is crawl. So the first thing you do to prove it out, then you walk. How do you actually reduce the overall effort? And then you can do the run, which is how do I automate the entire thing? And you're going to notice that it looks very familiar, right? Crawl is how do I use a companion alongside me, an AI chatbot or whatever you choose. How do I use that alongside me to solve the problem the fastest way possible with the least effort? And then the second one, walk, is actually personalizing it. So can you make that information come in and do an individual resolution for the aspects that you figure out are high friction? And then run is how do you make this whole thing work behind the scenes and be proactive? And most people are good enough with crawl, right? Because crawl will solve 90% of our problems and reduce the workload significantly for near zero cost. So if we look back at that IT ticket and we think, well, how do we actually adopt AI to solve this IT ticket? The person, the IT administrator, will actually go in, you can give them a prompt on how they can use the information that was in the ticket to actually look up answers. So look up, an answer using Claude or another tool, and then suggest the remediation method. And the user tries, and if it fails, you can tell them what else to add in the ticket, right? So you can start to see these steps that if you make those part of your process, you can solve some of those points of friction in 5 minutes instead of 25 minutes. And that's what you're going for with this first use case, because it proves out whether or not it's reasonable and rational to use AI to approach this problem. And it will help you figure out where it's reasonable and rational to move forward into the next stage of development. Right, so that sort of makes sense? Okay. So quick wins, no code adoption. You can implement it in hours, if not, days is typically too long. You can use it when process is repetitive. So we could actually have great prompts that, Jason puts together and say, hey, when I'm really building PowerShell scripts to talk to in Central and talk to other products, here's my prompt and here's how I get it to give me a good response every time. And you can share that across all of the nerds. You get immediate value and you use off-the-shelf tools. So that's a crawl quick win. So we start to think about the walk. This is where we're using AI to give you individual results. Most of us can actually approach the walk as well. This is where the AI agents become really helpful. And we can use the commercial off-the-shelf AI agents as well. So
Nicole,
yeah.
I have a question. His name's Leo. I missed him when we were doing the Slido because he asked for the URL. So I want to kind of help him out here. On your previous slide with the smileys, you did mention something like Claude. What is Claude AI that is being mentioned? Is it a general AI or specific for Enable?
Yeah, so Claude AI is general. It's the language model that's offered by Anthropic. Anthropic is similar to OpenAI and ChatGPT. So it's just another version of a language model.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. So we imagine the walk. We could actually start to see something like an agent is monitoring data that comes in. So we know that data is put in a log. We can have an agent that looks in the log and it finds a problem that exists in the log. And then we can say, well, we know we found a problem. Let's look up the error and try to proactively suggest a few remediation issues. So that little part of this can actually be brought forward and try to give you a personalized answer up front. We're not automating the entire process here. We're actually just sort of taking that upfront point of friction and trying to make it have even lower impact on your end user. So then the user can try it. And if something happens, we can actually try to create a ticket automatically, which will include additional information. So how can we make it so the ticket creation is easier? And then the technician may do something on the back end. So the crawl is everything as a person puts in information and it reacts to it. The walk can actually be, hey, information is being monitored. It's giving you more information back and then even almost triggering the next step. So this is really cool. And when you have done the crawls well, you'll know exactly the kind of data that has to come in to give you the exact outputs. So crawl is a great place to really give you the training you need to build the prompts that are effective. And then you can start using those prompts in this walk pattern. And then everybody walks, they do a great job. So AI is acting, it's still humanly supervised. I forgot to mention that. And you can use multiple tools to do this. So you don't have to just use one tool. You can do a tool that controls the agent plus a tool that, monitors the systems themselves. Some other really fun walk ideas. So internal co-pilots are great. Dashboards that you augment with your data, really powerful because that gives people insights and tells stories about the data that's coming in. We had some great NSPs who are using AI and reporting tools to actually suggest things to upsell into your different tenants. And it will build up their QBR report and go through, say, well, based on your QBR report and based on how other people are behaving, here's the next 3 things you should sell into this organization. So those are really fun walk ideas that other MSPs have built.
In fact, do a little shameless plug here, Nicole. I'm going to be doing something with AI and Power BI or some kind of BI tool. I haven't landed on Power BI 100% yet, but in terms of being able to contextually use AI to be able to do dashboards. So, because I have played around with it,
Yeah.
I'm not quite perfect at it yet, but I am getting better at it. And it, like you said earlier in your slide deck, garbage in, garbage out. That works with prompts as well. So, you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're just starting your day and you're asking very broad questions, and you really need to refine your prompt. In fact, that's where AI agents really, really help because you can keep these static prompts in the background and iterate on them and make them better.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
love that. Have you played with the tool? It's called the v0.dev, v0.dev. So the letter E, the number 0.dev. So it is really fun for building dashboards. It's AI, and you say, here's where I want my dashboard to be. Here's what I want it to look like. And it will actually generate the whole front end dashboard for you. And then you can play with it there. So you can make sure that the outcome is giving you the information that you want. And it's nearly instant. Like it's incredibly powerful. And it helps create those walk scenarios so much faster. And yeah, and then you can just download and grab it. You can even hook it into some language model backends, which makes people is free.
I have played around with N8N and some videos and stuff. I haven't actually got right into it and actually built monitoring and everything else. But there's a lot of cool technologies out there that are coming to the forefront right now that I just want to get my hands on. So I'll definitely check that out.
And that's a great one to mention for your walk ideas. So it's the letter N, the number 8, and then the letter N. And it will hook into a bunch of different tools, and you can string it together to create a process. So this process back here that we talk about, where we bring in data and then actually run it through the system, you can do this with something like N8N. So really powerful. If you haven't checked out that tool, you should. And I don't get any commission fees, by the way. Just just tools that are really helpful. Um, and then when we start looking at run, this is when you start to talk about proactive and humanless. And then you completely collapse the process entirely to create a frictionless environment. So in this run scenario, and this is where you want to use to set the vision, you actually imagine something like the AI is continuously monitoring the end environments, checking for performance, and that it automatically does remediation. And most of us will never get to run, and that's okay. Right? Our goal though is we want to start with crawl, we want to start with walk. We want to iterate on crawl to get better and better and better. And eventually we've removed every point of friction that we accidentally end up at run for purposely, to be honest. And fun ideas. You can actually purchase a lot of these, if not from Enable, but from other vendors. You can purchase some of these from Enable. I should rephrase that. Predictive support. So, when is a ticket likely to be entered? Monitoring your customers' health. So looking at their support history and feedback scores. Do we need to worry about this customer? Compliance. So detecting misconfigurations and things around, revenue intelligence. These are run ideas that exist in the market, and you probably don't want to do all of the work to code them yourself, but you probably want to adopt these from trusted vendors. When are you ready to do a run? So when you don't have to review every action, when the last 500 times you reviewed the action just was a yes, click through, I'm going to adopt it. When you know you have secure, stable data and your guardrails and your governance are in place. So that's actually another aspect of this, that you need to put in place some form of governance. So you need to have people understand the implications of using AI, the legalities of using it on data to make sure you're not putting customer data through without their consent. A lot we could talk about there, but that's not today's webinar. So if you end up implementing a crawl, right, how do you know whether or not you used your $10,000 worth of effort wisely? But you want to measure two things. You want to measure experience. So all of the people who are impacted by this new AI implementation, what is their satisfaction? Right? What is the feedback that you're getting from your internal technicians? What are the sentiment scores? And that's different than satisfaction. And what are the workflows, like which workflows have been adopted? So you want to talk about experience metrics, and you also want to look at your business metrics. There is a cost to running AI. It is a token cost, it's a tool cost, it's a learning cost. So really, if when you adopt one of these, crawl, walk, or crawl or walks, most likely, you want to look at the business metrics related to it. So the cost of maintaining it, is that outpacing the savings? That's really important to understand because these do take maintenance. So you want to
To
look
ask you another question, Nicole,
at
only because you're making me think about what it was 10 years ago to be an automation engineer, which nobody really had 10 years ago. If you did, you were right at the forefront. 5 years ago, it was about kind of more DevOps, agile process. Now we're getting into AI. I don't even know what you'd want to call it, like AI ops or something. AI DevOps. I don't know. But at the same point, there is there any guidance you can give the partners on the call today in terms of like how do you start from an organizational point of view? Do you put a full-time resource on it if you can afford that, that kind of thing?
Yeah. The the most brilliant way I have seen a mid-size or small organization start is by taking somebody who is already skilled at doing IT or doing development and giving them training on how to do prompt engineering, and then giving them 20 hours a week to try to find use cases and partner with business people to do implementation. So that's for right alongside. It doesn't require an AI engineer. The vast majority of this, people who are skilled in thinking and process, those people can be incredibly effective. Actually, business analysts are very effective at doing these use cases. Product managers are surprisingly good at it. The best ones that I've hired in come from support, right? So tech support people are typically wildly creative and really good at understanding what problems are coming in.
Yep.
So deeply consider that.
This is like parallel from a conversation I had 10 years ago. Honestly, it's like,
It is.
it's like, yeah, I might put my best guy and give him 20 hours a week just to focus on automation. And it's now come full circle into, adopting, artificial intelligence. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. 10 years ago, it would have been a completely different story for AI, but AI has been almost commoditized. So there is a book that we have published and we're giving away for free. It's How to Innovate with AI, and it actually walks through in great detail the aspects of AI that you need to understand, how to actually do an implementation process, all of the governance aspects. So from beginning to end, it'll bring you through a use case and how to implement this in your organization. So download it. It is a gift from Enable to you, totally free. So give you a second to capture that. Okay. And AI governance, I mentioned it a few times. It's in detail in the book. Establish somebody in your org that owns AI. You need to do it because you have to have a process in place to manage and list what data is being used by AI, to communicate that to your customer base, and to make sure you understand what your priorities are. Otherwise, you'll have people who are doing, biometric scanning because it's really easy to do those kinds of implementations, and that's against the law in a lot of places. We have an entire page published, and I recommend that you just steal it directly from us. It's the Enable AI Pillars. So look that up. You can take our AI pillars directly from us, and it's all about consent. So everything that we do is opt-in. Transparency, we will tell you everything there is to know about it, and we will only use AI in the places where it makes sense with the data that is necessary. So feel free to take this from us. There's a whole write-up that we use, and it's in plain English and super helpful. Okay, and shameless plug. So we are releasing in about 5 weeks a limited preview of the AI that is going to be part of End Central and Site. This will eventually be across all of our product lines. It looks like a chat interface on top of the assets view, but what it really is it's an agentic architecture that is starting with two AI experts. And an AI expert is a series of context protocol or MCP servers with a series of AI agents on top of it that are really highly specialized that will give you the answers that you're looking for related to your asset data. So if you are interested in adopting Enable's AI, feel free to scan this QR code. And we're taking in limited tech preview customers. So that'll be released in December. The other shameless plug is when you are using AI, it is mostly natural language. And so you can imagine if you're talking to our agent or any other AI agent or language model, you use the word agent and say something like delete my agent, and it will completely lose its mind. Because in the enable world, an agent is an executable that lives on an edge device. In Halo, an agent is an IT administrator who manages tickets. And everywhere else, an agent is an AI agent. And so what we've built here is a standards committee. There are more than 50 members already that has published an initial dictionary of terms for the managed service providers and the IT pro environment. And it clearly defines what each word means with a series of prompts that explain the word and a series of expected outcomes and synonyms. And so what we can do now with this dictionary is our agent will actually read that in and use that to interpret the intent of any request that comes in through the system. And all of the other vendors who are members are going to do the same thing so that as you start using AI to talk across all of your vendors, you'll know what to expect as the outcome. So this is really important, and we hope that you will consider being a member. It's a very low lift.
Awesome.
Okay.
This is great. Now, I believe the next one is the Q&A. We do have one question on the screen, which I'm going to ask next. But before I do, obviously, it's one question. We'll probably answer it in a minute or two. If you do have the opportunity, please ask some questions now. And let's see what Leo had to say here. What is the goal of this webinar? Is Enable going to implement AI in the background? Or how are we going to be able to connect to the Copilot ChatGPT to Enable? A while back, SolarWinds MSP tried to use a product called Logic Now to read the data in the dashboard and also based on the data of all their MSP clients to the Logic cards. And then kind of tell us what, for example, if some particular Windows update had issues. Logic cards were pretty cool. We should have went down that road. Unfortunately, it was a little early for Enable. That product never really took off. So this is another attempt of what is the goal here. Yeah. So yes, Logic cards was this first foray into, I wouldn't call it AI at that time. It was really kind of trying to understand data as a whole and really kind of give insights to our partners around particular issues or problems.
And so I will say, so the goal of the webinar was to introduce MSPs to an actual formula for determining what should we adopt internally, what should we build, and how do we prioritize it. So that's what the webinar was advertised as, and hopefully we met that goal. And if we didn't, I'm more than happy to have a conversation after Leopold, if that is helpful to you. But we are indeed building AI on our infrastructure. So we are releasing Ask Enzo, and Enzo is the AI orchestrator agent on top of an A2A and MCP server architecture. And what that means is it is an interface into a large number of agents that are highly specialized to answer specific questions and to do specific activities. It is opt-in only. So we will not be releasing AI to everybody. We will be releasing AI to people who opt in. That's really important to understand because some people are uncomfortable with it.
Now there's the
answer. Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. So the
Enzo.
initial release is free. So we will be releasing Enzo with a number of tokens to everybody who opts in over a period of time. And that initial interface is just on the asset view, and it's all of our product documentation and all of our public knowledge base articles. And so because it's limited to that set of data at first, that is free.
Awesome. There doesn't seem to be any other questions at this time. Nicole, obviously I just want to say thank you for giving us all of your wisdom and knowledge around AI. I'm going to shut down the webinar probably in the next minute. And again, if you don't have any questions now, but maybe something comes up, you can always reach out to me. It's letter J, MURPHY at n-able.com. And you can obviously reach out to Nicole as well. That's nicole.reineke at n-able.com. Again, thank you so much for joining, and we will see you again soon.